Hello, Reformed. This is the video for week 3, day 1. And last week we looked at the 5 solas, the 5 alones of the Reformation. This week we're starting a series on the 5 points of Calvinism, as we call them. So that's usually known as the acrostic TULIP. All the letters stand for something different: total depravity, unconditional election, limited atonement, irresistible grace, and the perseverance of the saints. So today's video will be on the T in TULIP, total depravity. And sometimes people think that's one of the key things of Reformed theology, and it is. But as we've been seeing, and as we will see, there's much more to Reformed theology than just these 5 points, especially total depravity. But it was a very key thing in the disagreements between the Reformed Church and the Arminians. Now, the canons of Dort, which we confess as one of our confessions, come from the Synod of Dort. And it was basically the Reformed Church's response to the Arminian problem and the Arminian points of doctrine. So when we think of the 5 points of Calvinism, they're really a Reformed response to these things. And so we'll be looking a little bit more at the canons of Dort here this week than we have in weeks previous. So today's video on total depravity starts out by giving us the bad news. It shows us who we are apart from Christ, who we are if left to ourselves, and it's an ugly picture. If we're thinking of total depravity, we can think of it as the doctrine that all of man is corrupted. Every man, every woman is corrupted completely in sin. It's not as if every man or every woman is as bad as they could be, but rather that there's no part of any man or any woman that's not affected by sin, with the exception, of course, of Jesus Christ, who was and is sinless. Basically, it's the idea that our bodies, our minds, our wills, our affections, everything has been corrupted by sin. So the canons of Dort summarize it in this way. Man was created in the beginning in the image of God. He was adorned with complete holiness. In his mind, he had the true and wholesome knowledge of his Creator and spiritual realities. In his will and heart, he had righteousness, and in all his affections, he had purity. But when he fell away from God by the instigation of the devil and by his own free will, he deprived himself of these excellent gifts. In contrast to his gifts in creation, he caused in his mind blindness, horrible darkness, vanity, and perverseness of judgment. In his will and heart, wickedness, rebellion, and hardness, and in all his affections, impurity. So all men are conceived in sin. They are born children of wrath, incapable of any saving good, prone to evil, dead in sin, and servants of sin. Without the regenerating grace of the Holy Spirit, they neither can nor want to return to God, correct their depraved nature, or incline themselves to such correction. So this is basically a way of affirming passages like Ephesians 2, which tell us that we are dead in sin apart from Christ. Not sick, not hurt, but dead. And we know that dead people cannot change their state or their condition. And that's basically what total depravity is getting at. It's not as if men and women cannot do any good. Rather, men and women cannot do any saving good. So this is the bad news. This is the thing that shows us our need for Christ, for a Savior, for a salvation that comes from outside of us. And we'll get to the good news later in this week.